there is only one thing that you can do for your gardens, mulching is probably the best thing that you can do. Hi, Jeff the Rose Dude here, and in this video we'll be going over mulching your gardens in the spring. We'll be going over the what, the why, the when, and the how. We have mulch to talk about, so let's get to it. Oh, that was so bad. Forget I said that. But before we start, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you can stay on top of new videos added all the time so you can have the most beautiful rose and flower garden. I really appreciate your support. So what exactly is mulch? Mulch is basically a material that you put on top of your garden soil. And there are so many different materials that you can use as mulch. There's organic mulches such as compost, there's hay, leaves, bark, and there's also inorganic mulch that you can use such as rubber, plastics, rocks. And every mulch has its own pros and cons. So do your research and see what makes the most sense to you, as they're all a little bit different. They cost different, the labor involved is going to be different, and how they interact with your garden is also going to differ. And why do we want to mulch in the garden in the first place? There are so many benefits that it's absolutely unbelievable, but it really makes the garden look really good to begin with. Just having a nice layer, clean, and it just really makes your garden pop. Mulch also helps protect the soil, especially in the springtime. It helps regulate the temperature. So if you have really cold nights, it keeps the soil warmer in the spring, and also during the summertime, it helps the soil stay cooler. It also helps with the water retention. If you don't have a mulch on there, then water can evaporate a lot faster from the soil and it will dry out a lot more, and you'll have to be watering a lot more often. And mulch is incredible with weeds. It suppresses weeds. So we all hate weeding. So if you can mulch and weed less, that's a win right there. And if you're using organic mulch, over time it breaks down and becomes part of the soil structure. So if you have really sandy soil or heavy clay soils, mulch really helps break that up. And mulch also offers so many great nutrients to the soil and therefore to your plants. Now, when is a good time to apply mulch to your gardens in the spring? You want to make sure that the soil has warmed up enough, because if you put the mulch down and it's still cold, it takes a lot longer for your soil to warm up. One of the best indicators of when it's a good time to mulch is when your springtime bulbs have come up. So, daffodils and tulips are amazing anyway because they just extend the period of the interest of your garden, but they also serve a really good purpose telling you when it's a good time to mulch. And if you're not a bulb person, I don't know why, but you could also just take a look and pay attention to your neighbors to see if their bulbs are coming up. In the spring, I like to use compost for my mulch. And like I said before, there are a ton of different mulches that you can use, so use what makes sense to you. But one of the benefits I like for using compost is that it's nice and dark, and it looks so good against all of the green new growth that's coming up in the gardens. It also is really good because I'm going to be doing a lot of planting in my garden here in the next few months. I'm growing marigolds and zinnias and cosmos from seed, and they'll be needed to be planted. And I'm also known to make frequent trips to the nursery, and I don't know how, but plants always end up in my shopping cart. But one of the best things that you can do when you're planting new flowers or other plants in your garden, it's always a good idea to mix some compost up with the native soil. And having this compost as a mulch, I already have it here, and it's easily accessible to where I can mix it in while I'm planting. Now, prior to adding mulch to your garden, there's a few things that we want to do to prep the garden before adding the mulch. We want to make sure that we take out any existing weeds. Mulch is really good at suppressing weeds that haven't grown yet, but the weeds that are currently in the garden more than likely will just grow right through the mulch and you'll end up with weeds. So just get them out right now. You also want to do all of your spring pruning. So get your roses pruned, get anything that needs to be pruned done now, and clean up any dead and old growth from your perennials. And the really cool thing about that is that you can just break them up and you can throw them right back onto the soil because the mulch will cover it up anyway, so you won't see the ugliness of it, and it's just that much more material that will break down and offer nutrients to your plants and help with the soil structure. A good general rule of thumb of how much mulch to add to your gardens is anywhere from 2 to 4 inches. But depending on how much you have and what you can afford, you may not be able to get to 2 inches, and that's okay. Any mulch is better than no mulch. And when you're also applying the mulch, you want to make sure that they stay away from the main stems and trunks of trees and shrubs. If it's right up against it, it can cause rotting, can cause disease, and that's no good for the plants. So just make sure that you keep a little bit of a space between the plant itself and the mulch. I'm going to start mulching now, so I'm going to show you what this area looks like before I mulch and what it will look like after I'm done mulching. So here is the area that I'm going to be mulching. I have finished pruning my roses. I got all the weeds out. Right now it looks pretty bad because I have left all of the leaves that I used in the fall, and there's some bark left. There's old plant material, but it is going to be all covered up from the mulch. All right, and this is what it looks like afterwards. And look at those daffodils. How much better they look against that dark compost compared to the ones over there that I haven't done yet. I mean, it just looks so much better and so much cleaner. And that's pretty much mulching in the spring. My garden is going to look so beautiful and healthy this year thanks to this compost mulch that I have added. So I'm going to finish doing the rest of the garden beds, and I will see you later. Have fun gardening.